Welcome to What's the Scenario with PLRP, where we explore claims and coverage scenarios relevant to insurance professionals. I'm Alicia Watley.
I'm Mike Brode.
I'm Tim Havler.
And I'm Brennan McLaughlin, Education Counsel at PLRB.
So, Tim, what's the scenario?
The scenario we will get to very shortly. I'd like to briefly mention that our wonderful and talented editor and lawyer, Brennan, has informed us that this is the 50th episode of this podcast. Although then he quickly revised himself and said this might only be the 49th or perhaps 48th. But we're going to treat this as the 50th episode.
It's 50.
And
Depends on how you count.
And we're going to congratulate ourselves. And
Congratulations, everyone.
Yay.
Now we're going to sing Celebration.
Oh,
Ready?
I'd like to hear that.
Celebrate good times. Come on.
Oh,
How about that?
you guys are,
It's a
you guys are in
celebration.
tune? Fantastic. We're going to have you guys do a duet next time for the 50th. We'll make that the 100th episode.
Oh, gosh. Well, then you have to join in so we can make it a trio.
All right. I'll play a musical accompaniment.
Okay. So, happy 50th. Yay. So back to my question, Tim. What's the scenario?
You want to know the scenario? We got scenarios.
Yes, that's why we're here.
The insured is a landlord. A standard BP policy. Fire destroyed several units, clearly covered under the policy. In the following months, the insured spent considerable expense driving back and forth to the property in order to check on the contractors and make sure the building repairs were going smoothly. The insured submits their total mileage to the adjuster for reimbursement. They are asking for 67 cents per mile, which they deem as current IRS rate, for all the back and forth driving that they did. Question, is this covered as part of the loss, or is it excluded as being too unrelated to the physical building repair?
Interesting. So he was making the decision to drive the back and forth. It wasn't necessary for him to do as many trips as he did, correct?
Correct. He was basically a concerned building owner.
He sounds nosy.
Yeah, yes. I was going to add that as a fact. He's kind of bugging these contractors, and they maybe wish he would back off a little bit, but he's got nothing else to do, and he wants to see how things are going.
And how would you submit, Tim? I'm usually on the policyholder side here, but how's this at all related to the direct physical damage to the units?
Well, the insured is going to say making sure that the repairs are going properly, and that if he's not there, he doesn't know what could happen.
Ring camera?
The contractors got rid of that when he tried to place it.
And how would you pay for this? So it isn't damage. So would it be like extra expense? Would it be part of the additional living expense? What do you think there, Tim? Where are we gonna? If we're gonna pay this thing, where are we gonna pay it from?
All right, Mike. I like your approach of let's find coverage if we can find coverage.
Right.
So I can think of 3 things to look at, and I'm going to tell you in advance. In this particular claim, I don't think any of them are going to work, but here's at least 3 places to check.
That's called a spoiler alert, Tim. Stop that.
The first I would say, like Mike, where you were going with, is this really part of the building repair? Right. So if it is, then it's part of replacement cost. But the only way I could really see that working is if the insured was helping to repair. Maybe even if they were a subcontractor on the site and they say, hey, I'm not even taking money for this. I'm doing this because it's my property and I want to be there and I'm doing the electrical and all I ask is that you pay my mileage. I think that's fair because that's helping to repair the property. That's replacement cost. But again, if he's just checking on things that are going and he's being nosy, then that is, we call it a consequential loss, and it's not part of the physical damage.
And
Oh,
maybe I'll mention that we do have a podcast related on that DIY or did their own repairs. For more on that, I
Oh,
remember a
the,
related issue on that.
That
the
means go back
throwback.
and check out our library.
That was the hidden episode that we forgot to count.
right. Brought us up to 50.
Okay, so that's out of the way. Number 2, I would think about extra expense. But extra expense is really when you need to do something to keep your business going. So if the loss makes your business operations stop or even slow down and you need to do something now, that could be paid as an extra expense. But here, again, he's not going to keep his business going or to reduce the period of restoration. He's just going to check. So I don't think
Now,
this
he
is
could
an extra
argue, though,
expense.
Tim. I see where you're going, but I'm going to stop you right there. By him going down there and pushing the contractor to get this thing going is reducing the time that this place is going to be down and he's losing rents. So it is.
He's not losing rents.
Yes, dude, place is burned down.
If you
Well,
listen to the contractors, it's taking them longer with that
Yeah.
guy bugging them.
Oh, you didn't have to bring that up.
Depends on who you ask. Yeah.
again, he just needs to go mind his business and wait till it's done. And
Yeah.
the
Now
fact that he
maybe
wants 67 cents just for the back and forth that he
Right.
paid home, he'd have that in his pocket.
maybe he can give some reason why he needs to be there and why this is speeding things up. Again, I'm going to doubt it, but we're always willing to listen, and we'll check that one extra expense. Good point, Mike. Number 3. This is under your duty to protect against further damages.
Ooh, yeah.
But this is only if you have some emergency and you got to get there right away to stop it from getting even worse. And the facts don't suggest that at all here. The fire had already occurred. It's out. It doesn't matter anymore. He's not showing up to stop further damages. Again, he's just showing up to bug people.
No, he's managing.
Okay, so that's my first hypothetical on these consequential loss, which, by the way, is the theme of this episode.
You have
Let's do
others?
another one.
Yeah. Ooh.
Well, I just got back from a big foreign travel trip, so here's a good one. Imagine that while on vacation in Europe, insured discovers that her passport was stolen. Oh no, my
Oh.
biggest nightmare.
Oh,
According to the U.S. Department of State, an insured must appear in person at a U.S. embassy or consulate to obtain a replacement passport. I don't know that that's true, but we're going to take that as a given. The nearest consulate is more than 200 miles away.
kilometers?
Yeah, good point. Assuming the passport replacement is a covered loss, would the insured's cost to travel to the consulate also be covered?
Yeah,
Why not?
because I got to get there in order to get home.
Right. I get my
Oh,
passport.
or even better, I got to get there in order to get my passport. That's what
Right.
we're replacing here. So again, we're going back to if what you're doing is necessary to repair or replace, sure, then we can include it. And yeah, if there's no other way to get there, then I think it's part of that replacement.
And it's a
What if
safety issue. If I don't have a passport, what's going to happen to me
you
then?
might have to stay in Europe forever?
I know.
Mm,
You okay?
yeah.
I know. All right, so yes, travel to the embassy, that should be covered. Yes.
What
Okay.
if she elected to take a helicopter versus an Uber? 'Cause I need it right away.
Uh,
I would assume there needs to be some reasonable
yes,
There you go.
transportation.
Good point.
exactly.
Good
Exactly,
point,
Alicia.
Alicia.
It's going to reasonableness.
Mhm.
Is she flying luxury? Does she want first class? Is that reasonable?
I mean,
I'd be happy to pay for coach.
that's what I'm saying. But you know what? There's some spoiled brats in the world who would feel like they need, their upgrade just to make it home. But as someone with no passport, you get to where you get to how you get there.
Here, here.
And without a passport, can they actually get on a plane?
No. No, I couldn't even exchange cash for other cash without a passport.
Wow.
Need that passport. Okay, hypothetical number 3. I like this one. We have a deer head, trophy deer head. I
Huh?
guess it was hanging. Mike, you're a Ohio guy. Where do you hang trophy deer heads in
Well,
your
that
house?
would be over the fireplace in my den.
Okay, it was hanging over the fireplace in the den,
With
and
the bear
let's
rug?
say
Burn up.
it got stolen.
Okay.
Now the insured,
Because that's weird.
Right.
the insured doesn't just want us to go out and buy a new deer head because
Right.
there's sentimental value to the deer head that he got. That was his shot to take down that deer. So what he wants is the cost of a new hunting trip, cost of a hunting license, and other costs for the insured to reacquire trophy head.
And he would like to clone, based on the DNA samples left of the deer head, that exact deer so he can reshoot it again. Right, Tim?
Okay, does anyone want to make an argument for paying for the license and the hunting trip?
No.
Bingo there.
No, I do not.
Does anyone want to articulate why?
Because it was a personal trip and a trophy deer head. Yeah, no.
Oh, and you're not
Yeah, they agree with me.
right. My dogs agreed. You're not going back to get that deer head. That deer head's gone. So going on
Mhm.
another hunting trip isn't getting you that trophy deer. And how you going to get another trophy deer, Tim? Those are tough to come across. So
Right,
this is
and I think we've
foolish.
talked about this one. I had a claim on this podcast once where someone lost their photo album and they claimed that it was priceless to them. So what we say is sentimental value is not part of ACV. So, but
Yeah.
Go,
you know,
go,
we can
go
we can
hunting and
still
get
get it.
another one.
We can still get a new deer head. It's just not your deer. I'm sorry.
Hopefully, you still have pictures that you can remember it, but go get another one.
And to me, it feels like reasonableness. You know, you talk about the passport. There's going to be some bright line rules that the government says you got to do this and this. In this case, it seems like there's going to be a market value for this kind of thing that you could just look at, and you don't have to get more complicated than that.
Go out to
Exactly.
Facebook Marketplace and look for it. Whoever
Uh,
stole it
I'm
probably
sure
put it up for
someone's selling
sale.
it.
Right.
Someone stole it and put it on Marketplace. Buy it back.
Hypothetical number 4.
Yay.
Okay, this one is from a real court case.
Ooh,
1994 was a Minnesota court. Uh, Water from a leak caused rot damage to cattle hides that the insured tanned for customers in Japan, Korea, and Italy. In Japan, Korea, Italy. Before the insured discovered damage to the hides, they were shipped to the customers. Okay, I see. So hides were shipped, then the insured discovered the damage. When insured learned of damaged hides, its president flew to Japan to settle with a displeased customer and to maintain the customer's goodwill.
good.
Should the insurer pay the travel costs?
No.
Maybe.
Run and go with yes.
Sure, yes. Let's go with yes. Now I need to think of a reason why. That's a long way to go.
Well, sometimes it's business partners when money's involved. Yeah, sometimes you do what you got to do to calm people down to save a partnership.
Maybe the argument is that the damage to the reputation is the real loss here. So the only way to repair that, only way to get whole is to go repair that loss to your reputation.
Right. You're avoiding a business income loss.
Yeah, now that is an interesting point because we were talking about extra expense before, which you get extra expense if you have to do something quickly to get your business back up going. And one of the big reasons of that is you need to maintain your relationships with your customers. There's a lot of value in that. So if you got to spend a bunch right now so that you can get your production line up and going, and those customers aren't going to go switch to somebody else. That's very valuable. But this is not an extra expense claim because their business didn't shut down.
Oh,
So
Did it take a hit?
can't use that.
I was about
And
to switch to maybe.
okay, is it time to see what the judge in Minnesota said?
Yes.
Sure.
Boom.
Always.
The court ruled that the travel costs were not covered
Yeah.
Boo.
Not yay.
You were right, but boo.
because, quote, these expenses are clearly excluded by the provision in the policy which excludes coverage for losses caused by decay or delay, loss of market, interruption of business, nor consequential loss of any nature.
Makes sense.
So you could argue that the physical loss here was to the hides, and then the calming customers was too consequential, not directly tied to the hide replacement.
Hey, you got a trip to Japan out of it, so it's not that bad of a deal, right?
Yeah, well, he had to pay for it, though.
Oh, so fun. He's got memories.
Oh, the company paid for it.
Makes sense.
Cool. So we went through all these hypotheticals.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Something for our 50th. Yay.
Yay.
So Tim, what do we take away from this particular scenario?
To recap, insured travels back and forth to the property several times as a concerned, perhaps nosy,
Annoyance.
business owner to check on the course of repairs in the months after a loss. If there's no specific coverage based on unique facts, perhaps extra expense, reasonable repairs, then these travel expenses are usually not covered because they're a consequential loss. In order to be part of replacement costs or ACV, an expense typically must be both reasonable and necessary for the repair or replacement. So when the insured is checking up on things, not necessarily for the repairs, it's their choice and their expense. Mike,
Yes.
where can an adjuster go to learn more?
PLRB.org has all your answers. Check out the Legal Hub. I think you'll find stuff on indirect losses and expenses, when they might apply, when not. How does ALE work? When are you going to get some of that additional living expense? How does it apply? Check it out at plrb.org. Likewise, there's one for can you get mileage when you're going to visit in the hospital under ALE? Maybe. Where would you find out? plrb.org. And there's links to cases here too. That Alicia, would you be kind enough to share those in the show notes?
Yes, we can absolutely share those links. So if you head to our show notes, you can find the links that we just talked about. You can find a recap of today's episode. You can find links to our social media, and you have information on how to submit your own adjuster story.
Please,
So,
for number 51,
yeah,
be an adjuster story.
yeah, so that means there are 49 other podcasts and recordings that you can hear, so you can subscribe and rate us so we can give you more. We'd love to share more scenarios with you. So don't forget to subscribe, rate us, and we will see you all next time.
Bye, everybody.
The views and opinions expressed in this resource are those of the individual speaker and not necessarily those of the Property and Liability Resource Bureau, its membership, or any organization with which the presenter is employed or affiliated. The information, ideas, and opinions are presented as information only and not as legal advice or offers of representation. Individual policy language and state laws vary, and listeners should rely on guidance from their companies and counsel as appropriate.